So I just wanted to mention real quick before I start the video that this video is going to cover the two plane crash tragedies that happened with the 737 MAX before 2020, both occurring in 2018, 2019. But even after that, as recent as 2024, a Boeing 737 MAX 9 passenger jet lost a rear door plug in mid flight, which is absolutely terrifying. So just keep in mind that there were still issues happening with Boeing's planes after these two plane crashes occurred. So I just want to mention the death of whistleblower John Barnett, whom the pigs claim died from a quote-unquote self-inflicted gunshot wound, as well as the death of whistleblower Joshua Dean, who was a former quality auditor at Spirit Aerosystems, whom is a Boeing supplier, which his death was stated by the pigs to have been due to a sudden illness. I am not going to doubt that. I am not going to state whether Boeing caused these deaths or not, for legal reasons, of course. So just keep that in mind. And both of these deaths occurred in 2024. There is a Reddit post that has a letter from John Barnett. I will be posting that in the description below. And if I find any other information from either of the whistleblowers mentioning anything to the public, I will list those in the description. Just keep in mind there are more Boeing whistleblowers. I do not know their names. I'm not sure if they're public. But Brian Knowles who was an attorney for both the men, has stated that their deaths will not deter the other Boeing whistleblowers from speaking out. But currently, I do not know who these whistleblowers are, which I think for now is the best. So let's continue with the video. I don't have the largest interest when it comes to aerospace engineering. I'm very fascinated by the parts and the technology, but as far as the industry goes, I've never wanted to be a part of it ever, especially since it's normally directly tied to the military. At least that is how America's aerospace industry works. However, as a material science engineer, one of the biggest things that we are taught in our program is how important quality control is, especially for aircrafts. And we are also taught, every engineer is also taught, that any plane crash that has ever happened has always been preventable. And the plane crashes are normally caused by a lack of oversight when it comes to the mechanical parts and materials withstanding the force in the environment, as well as poor programming, which we will definitely get into for this video. So regardless of what you believe or want to believe, there's no doubt in my mind that these issues when it comes to Boeing and the aircraft industry as a whole, when it comes to them essentially becoming the fast fashion of the aerospace industry, it's all due to the idea of competition breeds innovation in this capitalist society. And let me tell you, if anything, capitalism has halted innovation and has disregarded quality as a whole in every industry. So what are some reasons Boeing is the fast fashion of the plane industry, or I should say aerospace industry? Boeing pushed for a plan to fire 900 plane inspectors and replace them with technology improvements at their Seattle factories. And I mean, this is after two 737 MAX jetliners crashed and claimed 189 lives back in October 2018 and 157 lives back in March 2019. And both of these crashes, large part, had to do with the faulty software of the MCAS. So it's absolutely asinine to continue to replace actual inspectors and engineers with even more software. I mean, my God, the blow up of AI has really made everyone fucking stupid. Real quick, I just want to go over what the specific abbreviations mean that are going to be important for this article. So MCAS is for the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, which is the software is the flight control software. AOA is angle of attack. So when they say AOA sensor, it is angle of attack sensor. And the FAA are the Federal Aviation Administration in the U.S. Let's continue. So I have quite a few articles that I'm going to list in the description where I've gotten some of this information from. And mind you, everything that I'm listing is going to be before 2020 because I want to go back in time and show everyone that this is not new. I think most of us know it's not, but I've definitely seen some discourse, especially on the cesspool Reddit, where people are claiming it's being blown out of proportion, that it's not completely Boeing's fault. And I'm just going to list some articles. So in this article from USA Today, it states, when it comes to pairing its inspection staff on the West Coast, Boeing says the quality assurance transformation plan won't undermine safety. Substituting technology gains, it says, will increase quality and affect only stable procedures, those in which there is a low possibility of mistakes, which we all know to be false. For instance, Boeing says when it is bringing out a new aircraft with wings made out of composites, there is equipment now that can do the inspections more thoroughly than humans. Once the inspection equipment has verified that it can do the job, with humans overseeing the process, traditional inspectors can be redeployed to other tasks, which in reality, they just end up losing their jobs, which is something that the union has pointed out, but I will continue. As we identify and reduce second layer inspections for stable processes, quality assurance professionals will be redeployed and take on new roles such as leading and supporting efforts to prevent defects and reworks, Boeing had said in a statement. It adds that it is working to try to convince regulators and others that the changes will not jeopardize our quality, but will in fact lead to higher levels. And this was written back in 2019. It is 2023. And from what we have all seen, that is not the case. So I'm going to continue this video with pointing out some of the choices from Boeing's higher ups that eventually led to the two 737 MAX crashes that happened in the late 2010s. But let me remind you that Boeing has had issues before the 2010s. They have had issues before 1997. They have had issues before the 80s. They have essentially always had issues, but many of these issues that I'm going to be pointing out now has caused things to become far worse than they ever were before. Using software to band-aid underlying issues. So I'm just going to read the full quote from the article here because it states it perfectly and it's something that you can all read. So it says Boeing's attempt to solve this problem involved incorporating MCAS as a software fix for the potential stall condition. The 737 was designed with two AOA sensors, one on each side of the aircraft. Yet Boeing decided that the 737 MAX would only use input from one of the plane's two AOA sensors. If the single AOA sensor was triggered, MCAS would detect a dangerous nose-up condition and send a signal to the horizontal stabilizer located in the tail. Movement of the stabilizer would then force the plane's tail up and the nose down. In both the Lion Air and Ethiopian Air crashes, the AOA sensor malfunctioned, repeatedly activating MCAS. Since the two crashes, Boeing has made adjustments to the MCAS, including that the system will rely on input from the two AOA sensors instead of just one. But still more problems with MCAS have been uncovered. For example, an indicator light that would alert pilots if the jet's two AOA sensors disagreed, thought by Boeing to be standard on all MAX aircrafts, would only operate as part of an optional equipment package that neither airline involved in the crashes purchased. Yeah. And even after all this, in 2019, Gregory Travis stated that Boeing's designs for the 737 MAX violated industry norms and used software to compensate for inadequacies in the hardware. Competition with Airbus. So Boeing has had consistent beef with Airbus, which is essentially the European version of Boeing. And Boeing wanted to keep up with the technology that Airbus was putting out with their planes. And instead of building a new aircraft from the ground up, they thought they could just modify their latest generation of the 737 family, the 737NG. So, as quoted in the article that I'm reading, mounting larger, more fuel efficient engines similar to those employed on the A320neo on the existing 737 airframe posed a serious design problem because the 737 family was built closer to the ground than the Airbus A320. In order to provide appropriate ground clearance, the larger engines had to be mounted higher and farther forward on the wings than previous models of the 737. This significantly changed the aerodynamics of the aircraft and created the possibility of a nose-up stall under certain flight conditions. Essentially, Boeing placed pressure on production of the 737 MAX just to keep up with the Airbus 32neo. The management team, filled with finance bros at Boeing, rejected design changes that would prolong the production of the 737 MAX, despite those changes leading to certifications, which would be a step forward towards building a safer aircraft. Deflection and gaslighting. Boeing attempted to blame the pilots for both of the crashes rather than blame anything regarding the MCAS software issues. After the Ethiopian Airlines crashed, Boeing finally acknowledged that MCAS may have played a role in the crashes, but they still placed most of the blame on pilot error. The Boeing CEO, Dennis Muilenburg, I don't know, some European name, defended MCAS by stating, "We've confirmed that the MCAS system was designed per our standards, certified per our standards, and we're confident in that process. So it operated according to those design and certification standards. So we haven't seen a technical slip or gap in terms of the fundamental design and certification of the approach," which you have got to be fucking kidding me. And we will get to why that is a wild statement for him to make. So, internal investigations and self-certifications. The analyst for the safety of MCAS was delegated to Boeing by the FAA. In 2005, the FAA began on relying on their own certifications when it came to manufacturing. Thus, self-certification became commonplace within the U.S. airlines industry, and by 2018, Boeing was certifying 96% of their own work. Let's just be clear, self-certifications within their own company should not be a thing when it comes to safety and quality, especially of aircrafts. There has to be a fixed standard that is constantly being updated by aerospace engineers and aircraft experts. And no, not the ones who are directly tied to the military. Disregarding warnings. So there are a few steps to this. In 2015, Boeing engineers sent an email regarding the issues of relying on a single AOA sensor. In 2016, Mark Faulkner emailed a colleague regarding the erratic behavior of the MCAS in a flight simulation. Faulkner ended up going under federal investigation, claiming that he misled the FAA regarding the MCAS. I will be looking more into that on my own time. In 2018, the FAA conducted a risk assessment that estimated that within 45 years, the 737 MAX would experience 15 more crashes. This risk assessment was never publicly disclosed until late December 2019. In 2019, Curtis Eubank filed an internal ethics complaint about management suppressing a system that could have uncovered errors in the AOA sensors. Eubank stated that Boeing management was more concerned with cost and schedule rather than safety and quality. Similar to fast fashion, except, this is worse because we're dealing in planes. Replacing engineers with finance bros. So back in 1997, Boeing merged with McDonnell Douglas, which led the company into transforming into more finance-oriented culture rather than a safety engineer culture. And majority, if not all, of the top management, whom were previously engineers, ended up being replaced with finance bros from McDonnell Douglas. And the new finance bros of the management team even created an internal culture of class hierarchy between the engineers and the financiers, essentially with the financiers having more hierarchy. Lack of ethics. Remember when I said that Boeing is the fast fashion of the aerospace industry? Well, what is the one thing that all fast fashion brands have in common? They pump out hordes of shitty products with such bad quality control that they end up pushing out products that have more errors than ones that actually work. Boeing has operated in a similar way since the influx of finance bros in 1997. But even then, back in 1988 with the Aloha Airlines flight 243, Boeing had experienced issues of pushing their aircrafts out to take on as many flights as they can to get as much money from people as they can, which ended up leading to fatigue cracking within the parts. So TLDR, engineers need to stop being so passive with their employers when it comes to engineering safety and quality control. Not just quality control for the sake of profit. The 737 MAX is an updated version of the 737 that began use during the 1960s. The crashes were precipitated by a failure of an angle of attack AOA sensor and the activation of new flight control software, the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, MCAS. The MCAS was designed to prevent a stall due to the reconfiguration of engines, which was not disclosed to pilots until after the first 737 crash occurred. Even after the 737 MAX tragedies, pilots were not required to undergo simulation training on the 737 MAX. The 737 MAX had been operating for over a year when the Lion Air Flight JT610 crashed into the Java Sea. And this happened 13 minutes after takeoff from Indonesia. Every single passenger and crew on board died due to the crash. One of the main issues that led to this was the MCAS software, which forced the 737 aircraft to nosedive 26 times in 10 minutes. During this time, despite this quote-unquote accidental plane crash being one of the most fatal in recent times, the FAA never mandated for the 737 MAX to halt and stay put. This crash was the first time that the airline pilots had ever heard of the MCAS software, which is a red flag because they're the ones, driving the plane. On March 20th, 2019, 4 months after the Lion crash, another crash occurred with the Ethiopian Airlines flight ET302, which crashed 6 minutes after takeoff. This accident, quote-unquote accident, it is an accident, could have been preventable, but this accident killed 157 passengers and crew members. An investigation by the Ethiopian Airlines showed that the pilots had followed checklists from Boeing Flight Crew Operations Manual Bulletin. This issue appeared to stem from design flaws in the aircraft and the software. That's all I have for this video. I hope you came out of it with some knowledge that you didn't have before. And if you didn't learn shit and you already knew all of this, then yay, you can use the internets. All the articles I read from were before 2020, but as you can see throughout the clips in the video that I did insert some information that has been more recent, but I did not directly read quotes from those recent articles, but I will have them linked below. If you notice any sources I'm missing, or if any of you have more evidence that I didn't cover, you can just let me know in the comments or threads or wherever. So I hope you liked the video, and please don't give me shit for not sounding professional enough or that you don't like my political views. I really don't fucking care. Everything I talked about in the video is public knowledge and has been documented. So there are more sources than the ones I have that go over everything I said, plus more. So I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.